some very interesting groundwork for a future legal case against loot boxes and games with the loot boxes in them.
Yep.
The Game Developers Conference this year awarded one of its top honors, the Pioneer Award, to the Atari founder Nolan Bushnell. In the wake of movements like Me Too and Time's Up, the award has sparked a fair amount of backlash from the gaming community. People like Brianna Wu, developer Elizabeth Sampit, and Worcester Polytechnic Institute Gillian Smith were all quick to point to Bushnell's well-documented history of sexual misconduct in the workplace as reasoning why he shouldn't receive the award.
Who made this decision? Because this is an all-around bad decision.
Do you not actually look into the people that you're giving these awards to?
Yeah. I mean, this is like, I feel like this is the third story we've talked about that, proper vetting would have been able to.
Right?
This was completely avoidable.
Like, just do a quick Google.
Yeah.
Easily.
And read beyond founder of Atari.
Why did this happen? Why? But at the same time, I mean, Casey Affleck got an Oscar last year, so it's not like it fucking matters, to be honest with you. I mean, you can still very much so be a scumbag and still win awards.
Sure.
So,
Harvey Weinstein did it for like 20 fucking years.
Everybody knew he was a scumbag.
Yeah.
So who gives a fuck?
It was like the most open secret in Hollywood.
So who gives a fuck? I hate to say it that way, but unless there's a tangible change in motherfuckers basically saying like, oh yeah, as a matter of fact, it would have been better to publicly say, oh yeah, you would have got this shit, but you're a scumbag, so no, you can't get it.
Yeah.
Wow, that would have been great.
Yeah, the criteria for winning awards is you have to be a decent fucking human.
Is there a real, like honestly, is there even anything that anyone gets out of like being really kind to Nolan Bushnell these days? Like, I haven't heard that guy's name since I used to watch G4 on a regular basis. You know what I mean? Like, why? Why even honor him? You couldn't find anyone else in the gaming industry?
No.
Jesus Christ.
We couldn't find a single soul, which lets me know that not one real actual motherfucking gamer had a part in this.
Dude, this isn't some like video game award, Spike TV bullshit either. This is GDC.
That's it. I don't get it.
Ugh.
I don't get it. Fucking Suits, man.
Bad decision there.
Suits, man.
Yeah, well, that's...
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, please. Chat room, if you want, join in. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't the sexual misconduct allegations the reason that he had to leave Atari?
I think so.
You know what? Let's do what we said that they should have done. Let's do ourselves a quick Google.
Let's do a little Google
and see what pops up first.
I'm on it.
Just his name.
Because I want to say that was one of the chief reasons that he was dismissed from either Atari or wherever he was directly after Atari.
Well, everything's about this current news story so far.
Of course.
But I'm trying to see anything like before that.
I mean, because you would think that would be a pretty big oversight on the awards committee.
But you know what? Depending on how far ago when did he leave Atari? 'Cause I'm trying to think.
Jesus, I mean, he was like the founder, so I think that he was the one who ended up selling it for the first time, maybe?
Okay, because depending on how far back that was, that's some shit that would have got buried easily.
That's true.
Easily.
That's
so there
true.
might not even really be public record about that. I'll search. I'm searching.
But I mean, like, again, the story here is that, he has a well-documented history of sexual misconduct in the workplace. So, I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't want to further tarnish the man's name.
Yeah, I'm trying to... okay, I got to the blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah,
I don't
see, okay, you know what? Hold on, because it says here on his wiki.
Okay.
There's nothing negative on his wiki that I'm seeing.
No. November 1978, Bushnell was forced out of the company after a dispute with Warner over its future direction.
Okay. That could be any number of things.
Yeah. Exactly. That's vague as fuck.
Things, yeah.
So I don't really know.
Interesting.
But
I mean, that's the thing though, is that, is it weird to anyone else that people will employ an army of publicists to just keep facts off of people's Wikipedia pages?
Oh, without a doubt.
That's fucking crazy.
Without a doubt.
Like, I was thinking. I was thinking about it this week.
Publicists don't scrub a wiki page?
Oh, totally. Well, like, dude, the fucking Louis C.K.'s manager, or whoever his publicist was,
people.
Yeah, that was covering up his bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, dude, because think about a wiki, right? Think about any person that has an issue with you as like a public figure. They could just hop on wiki and just put some shit on there. You know what I'm saying? And it very well could be true. Let's say it's verified true. Let's say there's a news story about this, right?
Yeah.
Dude, do you know how many times? Hey, okay, a completely detailed synopsis of a scandal can just like completely turn into a very small link that goes to another wiki page that has one paragraph.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's
very possible.
Anyway. All right. Well, so on that note, what a great note to end our.
I'm noticing some synergy between the stories here.
There is some.
Moving on to our topic of discussion. By the way, if you want to sound off on this or anything that we're talking about today, Final Encountercast on Skype, 810-207-1764, limitbreakradio.com/Discord if you want to call in on Discord. Let's talk about the co-creator of Counter-Strike. He was arrested over potential alleged sexual exploitation of a child.
Jesus Christ.
Now, we don't know exactly what the details of the charge are. He has been arrested. But my question is, because this is damn grim. Although, it seems like a lot of the news that we cover these days is goddamn grim. And, we're going through a period of time right now where we are tearing down a lot of our idols.
Yep.
Culturally. I don't mean individually, I mean culturally. And it's challenging a lot of people.
Your favorite is problematic.
Yes. And the thing is that, it's challenging a lot of people about, who do we idolize? Like, who do we honor? And in fact, who do we even support? And I'm curious if this changes your relationship or your opinion about Counter-Strike. Would you play it in the future? I mean, it's one of the most highly watched and consumed esports. Would you continue to watch it?
I'm done.
I mean, your connection to Counter-Strike was maybe tenuous in the first place. I'm not the biggest Counter-Strike fan. None of us necessarily are. So this is why we want to hear from you. Again, Final Encountercast on Skype, 810-207-1764, limitbreakradio.com/Discord. On Discord to sound off. We want to know, in your opinion, does this change the way that you see Counter-Strike? I mean, I think for me that it does, for sure.
Yep.
His involvement in it, as one of the co-creators, you can hear his voice in many, drops in the game.
He gets royalties from it.
Yeah, he gets royalties from it. Yeah, he's still going to continue to be paid off of this for a long time. Even being forced out of the company, you do get to retain, even if you're a criminal, you get to retain your rights to a commercial product that does well. It's
because of that reason specifically why I will refuse to play it. I will refuse to spend my own money.
Because you don't want even a fraction of a cent.
Not a red cent, not a fraction of a cent of my money to go to a person like this. And I think this, Nate, goes to a larger issue that you're talking about this cultural shift, the change in the zeitgeist, if you will, of people, starting to take a close look at our idols, a close look at the people that we consider heroes, and hold them accountable for really vile actions, right? Yeah. But at the same time, usually followed after some initial fervor is the same shit. Nobody, okay, that person got fired, cool.
Well,
this is different because you're seeing this continual wave, and I find that to be interesting. And we have people in the chat saying, wow, I thought this was only a Hollywood thing.
Oh, no.
It is
no.
clear.
This is all, yeah.
This is very much
is a
so
human
This is a
thing.
human condition that
Right.
we're talking about.
Just some important facts here. Jess Cliff is who we're talking about, the co-creator of Valve's highly popular Counter-Strike. He was arrested by Seattle police on suspicion of child exploitation. Cliff has been an employee of Valve since 2003. A spokesperson for Valve has told Kotaku that Cliff was suspended. We are still learning of the details of what actually happened, Valve says. Reports suggest that he has been arrested for a felony offense. As such, we have suspended his employment until we know more. An arrest record obtained by Kotaku shows that Cliff was booked at 1:17 a.m. on Thursday before being denied bail. According to Seattle news site KIRO7, Cliff has not been charged with any crime at this time.
But what that tells me is they had a warrant, and they ran up in this shit, and they got him at 1-something in the morning, and by being denied bail, that means
It's
he's
hard stuff.
not just necessarily hard stuff, he's considered a flight risk.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
And so I feel like if a judge is looking at what's put in front of them, and again, it's innocent until proven guilty and all this stuff, but I feel like for a judge to not grant you bail, I feel like that's an important part of this case here.
According to ESPN, the Washington state legislature says sexual exploitation of children can include elements of commercial sexual abuse of a minor or depictions of minors engaged in sexually explicit content, such as creation, distribution, or possession of depictions of child pornography.
And see, we got Epic Lurker in the chat. Like, the problem is you not just hurting him by boycotting Counter-Strike, you're hurting the other people who had nothing to do with the crime. And I see this argument a lot when it comes to
Powerful people.
but not just powerful people, but boycotts, economic boycotts.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about, like for myself, I took a break off of the NFL the whole year. I'm not watching
Yeah.
the NFL anymore
Right.
for political and personal reasons. But the fact is, people, oh man, but what about all the people who do the journalism around it? And you're a journalist. What about, if this keeps going on, people are out of work and da da da. The problem,
Fuck them. Let them find work somewhere else.
they got to work somewhere else. Because honestly,
Do some other shit.
honestly, it's not necessarily about the economics in terms of dollars and cents, and I wanna make sure this one. No, I want to make sure that I am saying economically that I refuse to give my money to people who are deviant.
Well, and if enough people were
That
to
deviant, I
do
should
stuff
say.
like that, if enough people were to take a stand like that, and you actually saw economic hurt within those industries, what that says to those companies. So let's say to Valve specifically, if a lot of people, or to Counter-Strike, a lot of people decided, I'm not playing this anymore, and they see 20, 30, 40,000 people step away from it, that's going to make them take a very hard internal look and say, now what can we do
say we gotta
to
change.
fix this?
And say we got to
Because
change.
you're right, it's one thing to just be like, all right, well, he's fired now, guys, come back and play our game. But they could go further. I'm not saying that they have to, but they're a big company.
But think about
they
it like
make
this.
a lot of money, and they could do a lot of
his
good.
voice would no longer be in the game. Point blank. Period. He will only be referenced in the most in the most minimal way possible because he helped co-create the game. There's nothing anybody can do to change that. As Nate illustrated, there's nothing you could do about his royalties and what he gets.
I don't
from
know
the
if there's
sale.
nothing that can be done.
Well,
here's
they could
what you got.
freeze his shares.
Here's what you got to remember. Okay.
Is Valve a private company?
I don't know. Counter-Strike, okay? Counter-Strike, before it was the biggest game in the fucking world, it was a mod for Half-Life.
True.
So a lot of the source code,
Is Half-Life.
Right. Valve did something very progressive at the time, and instead of shutting down that modder studio, they hired them.
True
Now, this, you can say whatever you want about, again, we're back to vetting again. You can say whatever you want about Valve's vetting process, and, probably there is some criticism that should be leveled there. But at the same time, the fundamentals for the code that was being used for Counter-Strike was not theirs. And even if they gave them permission, I think that Valve and their army of corporate lawyers, if they wanted to, would make sure, or at least tie up every red cent that would otherwise go to this guy
Pretty much.
in court.
Pretty much.
If I was Valve, if I was Gaben, right? That's what I would be doing. That I would be in court going, this guy does not deserve another fucking check with the Valve Corporation logo on it. I don't ever want to cut it, and fuck you.
Pretty much. And that's
and again, this is all allegedly because he's not been officially booked on a crime. He's only been arrested.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact
convicted, because you could be charged.
That's true. That's true. But all of this is still allegedly. But again, if I had found out that I was working with someone like that, there's no way that I would let that slide. In fact, there's a former employer of mine. One of their employees had some questionable behavior raised about them at another job that they were at, and my former employer stood by him, kept him on.
Wow.
And I've told myself when I heard that, I was like, okay, well, I'm never stepping foot inside of that place ever again.
But that's what I'm saying is that, you talk about, Robbie, you were talking about like when people start to see, the numbers shift and people start. But see, that's the problem is that it shouldn't take for economic punishment for this to mean anything.
Right.
And I appreciate, at least at the onset, Valve saying, hey, until we get official word, he's suspended. Did they say with or without pay? It better be without pay.
They didn't say.
Because if it's with pay, I'm going to be furious.
They didn't specify.
If it's without pay, cool. And that's the first way to get out ahead of it and say, you know what? Hey, we're finding out about this just as you guys are. Because I understand that employers and corporations aren't all powerful. There is things you can hide even from your employer.
Sure.
However, I feel like when something like this comes out and you're like, hey, you're suspected of this, for me, I don't really see the issue with being like, all right, we gonna suspend you without pay, and if you get charged, you done. You're done.
Not to mention that happened in your backyard, right?
Yeah.
So it's one thing to just be like, all right, there, we've removed him, guys, blah, 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 blah. If that was me, like it still tarnished your brand at that point, right? Why would you not want to try and make that up in some way? Like that's only going to help your name, help your brand, right?
As a company,
exactly.
I think if you have an employee who is under suspicion of something like this, yeah, like I think that you have to back off.
Without a doubt.
You have to. You can't stand by them. That's insane. That damages your bottom line. That damages your brand. And ethically, it compromises you, too, because it makes you look like you're harboring criminals. It makes you look like you're creating a safe environment for criminals to come and work and continue to be criminals under your company. And I'm sure that's not what Valve wants. I'm sure that's not what they want to project out there. So, okay, yeah, suspended, fine. I think with or without pay, that's an important question.
So here's what I was looking up. I was looking up because Valve is considered an LLC. And LLCs, limited liability company, whatever, they can do freeze outs. So LLC can legally freeze a stakeholder out. So essentially what they could do legally is merge and then force him to give up his shares.
It's unclear whether or not he's even a shareholder.
But I'm saying in that case, if he is a shareholder, then...
But I mean, you're talking about IP residuals. And I think that at the point that you're talking about IP residuals, if Valve can make a case that they don't actually own the IP,
right,
that's what I think is a little bit more of a powerful legal case to lay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, again,
they were working off of our source code. They were using our engine to do it. We allowed them to do it. So
essentially make the argument like, does this even belong to him?
Yeah, this was they made it using our tools. So is this not our property?
Yeah.
Which they could have done. I mean, they could have done that back in 2003 when they officially hired the Counter-Strike team.
Is Nika dead?
I don't know. She just hasn't said anything ever.
Are you okay?
Yeah, right over
Yeah,
there.
no, my can you hear my fan? My computer fan just started buzzing, and I'm scared that it's gonna pick up on the mic.
Nobody cares. Just speak.
I actually care.
Okay, he cares because he has to do stuff.
No, I could hear it for a brief moment, but not terribly. No.
Yeah, because
I can't hear it now.
I muted. You can't hear it now?
No,
I can hear it. It's
I
really
can't.
loud.
I can't.
Huh. I was wondering. I was like, damn, I know there's another person here.
Shove a pencil in it. See if that helps. Oh, I'm kidding.
I don't know.
It's the worst idea.
But yeah, no, I mean, dude, if I was, like I said, if I was Gaben, I would be doing everything that I can to make
Without
sure
a doubt, because
that
this
this
is
guy
not-
never takes up another check.
And the thing is that this is, and I hate to put things on a scale, but this is not, office romance gone bad. This is not some awkward dude approaching his female coworker and like doing it the wrong way.
No, this
It's
is
not
Jared
racial.
from Subway type shit.
Yes, this is straight up like child porn stuff. And I feel like when it comes to the other stuff, people allow, and I'm not saying I agree, but people allow themselves a certain level of mental gymnastics and wiggle room with stuff like that. Oh, we got to do an investigation in this, as a company.
Sure.
I feel like when it involves children,
Yeah. All bets are off.
all bets are off,
I
dude.
agree with that.
Yeah.
Point blank period. Because if it's even like alleged, right, and this is not like you work at a school and like a kid could even go crazy, I understand that there's levels to this shit,
Yeah.
but at the same time, dude, you're a game developer and you worked on Counter-Strike, and probably when's the last time he actually, had to go into the office and shit on a daily basis? This is a motherfucker whose life was pretty cool
Yeah.
and probably didn't have that much shit to do.
Right.
I mean, that really is very concerning that you would be accused of something that involves the abuse of children.
Yeah.
I feel you. I think Valve needs to go out extra hard and be, against something like this. Extra hard.
Absolutely.
It's so fucked up.
It is. And again, we keep hearing about this shit. Whether it's the game industry, whether it's Hollywood, there's a real problem when we when we make our idols
This was actually something
out of just very flawed human beings,
or even because this is something that you said earlier that I've been sitting here contemplating and thinking about. I've never heard of Jesse Cliff. If I heard of Counter-Strike, of course, right? And when this came to light the other day in our host chat, Nate, you had mentioned, why should the video game industry be any different? And when you talk about our idols, doing shit like this, it's like one person sheds this terrible, disgusting light on entire companies, on entire industries, right? I idolize Marvel. Who is that exactly, though? Like those movies, the stuff that they say, or if it's a game, like the stuff that Horizon Zero Dawn did. Who is it that I really idolize? Because if one person on that staff or that development team comes out and does something heinous like this,
and there's
but it's
like 300 people on average that work on that game.
We
so the
talked
odds are not in your favor for everyone being a fucking saint.
Exactly. Do you remember when we talked to Alex Handy over on Checkpoint Radio?
Sure.
He mentioned that the reason that video games are art and they're a complex kind of art because so many people work on these. So many people. So
And,
when we
the same thing.
idolize,
But the same thing is for film.
Yeah, the same thing could be said for film.
But at the same time, when it comes to stuff like this, and because those people are in such huge levels of power, have access to so many people and so many things, the problem is that someone somewhere along the line knew something and did nothing.
Yeah.
That's the only way that certain stuff proliferates. It's very, very, very hard to be a sexual assaulter and no one knows about it because you usually sexually assault someone.
And a lot of times it's someone you know.
And a lot of times it's someone you know.
Statistically.
And the thread grows longer and longer and longer. And those people who are kind of on the periphery of stuff, who, the only way that somebody could have even arrested them is because somebody said something.
Yeah.
And that means somebody was suspicious or somebody was a potential victim. And that's when it becomes, it starts affecting the larger, circle as a whole. Because when it came to stuff like Harvey Weinstein, there were so many fucking people that knew. And that's part of what made it so baffling and bizarre. And you realized it was a cultural systemic thing. And that's where I don't think, the video game industry is that different because
it's not.
Is fucking collaborative. And that's part of what makes it affect so many people is because, Robbie, you and I, we contact each other once, maybe twice a week. If I was coming and sitting next to you every day for a number of years working on a video game, there's probably some fucking weird shit that you might say every now and then. And it depends on how weird the shit that you say that I might be concerned. If you were saying something like, here's one thing that actually got said to me at work one time. It was fucking bizarre, and I checked this dude, right? And I was like, yo, I might have to get you to lead a building off rip. It's because I work at a community center, and this guy, he was just a guy visiting, I guess, going to something inside the building, and we have a lot of programs for kids and teens in the building.
Yeah.
And there was a young preteen girl, and she was just minding her fucking business, and he turns around and says to some of the other guys, yeah, give her a couple years, man. And I'm like, bro, I straight up looked at him. I was like, I straight up said,
gross.
fam, get the fuck. I said, I'm at work. I'm at work, and I audibly said, yo, get the fuck away from me, and I might have to escort you out, bro. Because that's the type of shit. That's the type of little comments.
I have stories like that from FF11. I could talk your ear off all day.
But that's what I'm saying. But that's how it works, and that's how it becomes ingrained into a culture.
Yeah.
And when you hear shit like that, that's when people who are close to those individuals, instead of just writing that off as that motherfucker's just being creepy, no, there's probably some other shit going on there.
And to that point, kind of bringing this back to this idea of how our idols aren't even necessarily specific peoples, but entire industries or entire companies. When we see stuff like this happen, as we're seeing right now with this Jesse Cliff stuff, right? Okay, he's been suspended or temporarily removed or whatever, and that's probably going to be where it stops, right? The growth and the movements that we've seen in the past year with Me Too, this is the people doing it, right? Like video game industry, Hollywood, like we said, hundreds and hundreds of people. And it's these individual people that are trying to push these movements, and that's great. Why aren't we also seeing that these companies at entities trying to either start initiatives or trying to create environments or an apparatus to also help facilitate
You're
this.
starting to see it a lot more in TV and film. I think it's going to be.
You're right.
I think it's going to be a
actually.
lot harder to do in the video game industry based off what we just talked about earlier.
There were two actresses that went in. I think it was it Jessica Chastain and.
It was a director too.
I can't remember, but
was it like Catherine Bigelow or something?
I know for sure. I don't know if it's related, but I know that Wonder Woman's going to be the first movie that will have a new set of rules under one of the regulatory bodies to basically help keep people safe and facilitate a safer work environment. But I don't know if that's related to the one that you guys are talking about.
No, what I was talking about, Jessica Chastain went in with Octavia Spencer, and because Octavia Spencer had told her just kind of anecdotally about how she felt like she was being underpaid for a lot of the roles that she was getting, and Jessica Chastain went in with her, and there was like a collective bargaining thing that happened where she was like, listen, if you want me to do this film, then you've got to pay Octavia Spencer more. And that, I think things like that definitely do move the needle and are something completely new, because that's taking an agent right out of the fucking picture.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean?
And not just because of that, but even the agents and the unions are operating off of an old paradigm.
That's true too.
So when you hear about something like Michelle Williams getting paid like $10,000 for a reshoot of a Kevin Spacey movie, when fucking, I forgot who it was, Ben Affleck or some shit, got paid $1 million to reshoot it. It was fucking Marky Mark. That's who it was.
Jesus.
Right? That was the disparity.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And like that's what we're talking about. So it stems down from all this stuff, and somebody along the line, nobody along that line, nobody said, damn, that's fucked up.
Right.
Nobody.
Right.
If you went to work, Robbie, next week, and you found out that the newest girl coming in, the newest woman being, hired into your company was getting paid, $5 an hour. Let's just throw minimum wage
out the window.
Yeah.
Right? Let's just find out she makes, $5 an hour, right?
So like half the what you make.
Yeah.
Or whatever, right? Take whatever you make, she makes half, right? What do you do at that point? Because if you're somebody who's like, yeah, what exactly does she do? And she's like, oh yeah, she does the same thing you do. Damn, she only make $5 an hour.
That's fucked up.
If you're not the person who at least goes, that's kind of fucked up to your manager,
Yeah.
then this whole shit continues to perpetuate.
Right.
I actually had something sort of similar to that happen when the girl that took my position took it over. She wasn't making as much as what I was making when I had taken it over. And I'm like, okay, this is basically all the stuff they did for me. So you need to get on the phone, and they should be doing at least that.
And that's part of it. At least you stepping in or somebody stepping in and saying, hey, there's an issue. And that's how you begin to create a more positive environment. And that's what I mean when we talk about these movements and we talk about, protecting kids and affording equal pay for women and all this type of stuff. It doesn't require any fucking energy beyond human decency.
Right.
Like
That's
point
such a
blank,
foreign
period.
concept to people nowadays.
Like that's the thing. It doesn't require anything. If somebody came in, right, and Nate, you do the engineering for Checkpoint Radio. So if they came in and they say, hey, everybody makes $100,000 except for Nate. Nate, he's gonna make $125,000. I'd be like, fuck yeah, because he does more work than everybody else in terms of the actual meat and potatoes of the show.
Yep.
What makes the show good and stuff like that from a technical point of view. Totally cool. But if we all came in and says everybody makes $110,000 besides Callie, because reasons, he's gonna make 85.
Right.
If we don't sit back and say fuck your contract,
Yeah.
if we sit back and go, well, I mean, it's more than you making now, bro. Like,
It's horrible.
Yeah, if we do that, then we're fucked up and part of the problem.
Nika, you're making some faces over there. Is it the chat you're reading? You have something you want to say?
The chat's awful. Like some awful stories popping off in the chat, seriously.
Yeah, no, not really.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
Thanks for that contribution, Nika.
You're welcome. I mean, he stopped to call me out if I
Gave you a
find
chance earlier. The chat's like, let Nika talk, and she's like, I'm trying.
The chat's trying to white knight me, and I'm not asking to be white knighted, man. I don't need that right now.
Well,
Okay, I got a stuffy nose and a computer fan that's going crazy. I mean, if I need to say something, I'll find a way.
I mean, but honestly, like, because we're all three dudes in a hot ass studio right now, and you're the only woman on the show right now. Like, legit, how
Honestly,
when it comes to
this bothers me
gaming,
more as a teacher than it does as a woman, just because, like, I don't know. When I think of my children, they're my babies, and I think about like all the teachers in the news that I hear that abuse kids or that sexually assault kids, and it just. I can't, like, I don't know. I can't even say it like grosses me out. It just, with every fiber of my being, I am like angry at these kinds of things. So when a video game company is like keeping that, or like there's a, it's not even like sexually assault, but when a company like LuLaRoe just had a scandal because they like kept someone who insulted like mentally, like people with mental handicaps, and they insulted him, and then they're like, oh no, it was like Down syndrome. And so the Down syndrome organization is like, sorry, we're going to have to cut ties unless you fire this one employee. If you fire the one employee, we can keep our contract. And LuLaRoe's like, well, we don't want to throw him out to the wolves and, not let him able to provide for his family. Like, where are the lines drawn?
No.
Like, where? How can you do that?
No, here's the thing is that you have the ability to be held accountable for any fucking thing you say.
Oh, yeah.
You can say whatever the fuck you want,
yeah,
but you will be held accountable
in some way.
Get ready for the consequences.
If there was a job that went back through one of my Twitters and was like, Norris, you said this kind of problematic shit, what are we gonna do about it? At that point, I would probably be the first person to reach out to the Down Syndrome Association or whatever and be like, I'm really sorry about that. That was fucked up.
Yeah.
And I apologize. Not necessarily to save my job, but just to be a decent
Just to be a
fucking
decent
But I
human
feel like
being.
if you say shit like that, you should expect to lose your job. So when there's people like this within the video game community, within the geek communities, like these people should not still be around,
Well,
and the companies should not be protecting them either.
I think if someone gets arrested, that's like a totally different
Yeah,
thing.
a tweet is totally different.
I don't really know what the context there is, but I mean, if someone said in a tweet that, oh, that's retarded, and
No, he was like outwardly talking about how people with Down syndrome are horrible or something. It was like a video he made or something.
oh wow,
Oh, okay,
that's
yeah, you gotta
fucking
go.
horrible.
It was
Yeah,
something
You
like
gotta
that.
go.
This is what
That's
Lulu
different.
was like,
That's
"Look,
different.
That's too
different.
deliberate.
Yeah.
But again, you know, I like to reference this Doug Stanhope bit that exists out there. That you know, he brings up a really good point that the word retarded was born out of kindness, because before retarded it was imbecile, and the thing that we do as quote unquote normal people is that we co-opt that medical language to be able to call our friends dumb when we want to call them dumb.
Yeah.
And that's 100% true. And he's like, you can add as many fucking words and clinical definitions onto that as you want. It'll still apply. Like, ha ha, you exhibited the transaxial frontal lobal.
Right.
You know, like, it's the same fucking shit. And we will always do that as humans. It's a concept. I forget what it's the euphemism treadmill. That's a very real concept. And you know, I think that the language police is definitely something to be worried about and to be concerned about, especially in the day of social media, where you can pull up something from 3 years ago and try to hold somebody accountable for that.
Right, but see, in this case, we're not necessarily...
This case is a lot different. This is different. This is going like, man, I hate how they drool on the fucking subway. Like, stop it. You're a fucking douche if you're doing that.
But not even just that. But even when we talk about the language police and all this other type of stuff, people are going back and looking at these tweets and looking at events, looking at people saying things that happened. I think when we're talking about Me Too, it's a little bit different than what we were talking about when it came to like the decency police of the past few years, right? Because when you're talking about Me Too, you're seeing people talk about events and make accusations.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's a totally different thing
Yep.
from, you know, people just saying wild shit about, you know, disadvantaged people. I think that's different. Even when like certain people say crazy like racist shit, right? I think it's like, okay, that motherfucker's a racist. I ain't gotta follow them. I ain't gotta get them none of my attention, XYZ. But when somebody comes out with an event that says they did something racist, or they denied, you know, people of color a job or women a job, that's totally different.
That is a different thing. You're right. You're totally
I
right.
think it is important for us to make that distinction and not always get caught up in, oh, here come the Twitter police. Here come the we got to make sure that we're careful of that, because I agree with you, Nate. I think free speech is absolutely important, and we got to make sure that we understand context. Because if I'm talking to you and we're, you know what I'm saying, playing the dozens, going at each other and whatnot, and you say, oh man, you're retarded, right? I'm not going to sit back and be like, oh my God.
You're not going to clutch the pearls.
Personally,
Yeah,
I'm not going to
right,
do that.
right.
But at the same time, I will also tell you, yeah, dude, probably don't do that in public. Because we have a context, we have
Right.
an understanding.
Right.
So,
at the same time, I'm very much a big believer in own the shitty things that you're going to say.
That too.
You know, if somebody called me out, if I said it in public, I'm doing so knowing that I could be called out on it, and that if I am, I'm prepared to defend myself.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's got to be an element to it too, because, you know, like, yeah, that's important to know how you're using language. And if someone comes at you and goes, hey, I have a retarded brother, that's offensive, and you go, hey, I wasn't trying to talk about your brother. And you can talk about things like euphemism treadmills, and you know what? Maybe it won't save the situation and that person thinking that you're an asshole, but at least you know why you're using the words that you're choosing to use.
Exactly.
You know,
and so that's incredibly important. And
I mean, and especially when it comes to very loaded language like racist language, racial language, sexist or sexual language.
Yeah.
I have used the word faggot on not that many occasions, but I was called a faggot a lot growing up because I was bullied a lot. And I am not shy about using I'm not going to say, well, they used to call me the F word. No, they called me a faggot, and they, fucking slammed my head into garbage cans because of it. You know what I mean?
But it's kind of like how CNN didn't shy away from the shithole thing.
Exactly.
The word itself is important to the context of telling a story.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's important that we don't begin to shy away from language. You know what I mean?
And to fully contextualize kind of the comedy bit that a lot of that comes from, it's the Dave Chappelle, that's just white people getting away with saying nigger on television, right? Like, that's what the N-word is in that definition. But at the same time, if you're talking about a story and that's the crux of the story, generally the news does not shy away from that shit.
Here was the problem, because CNN was guilty of it before when they had a debate and they said, what's the worst term, the N-word or cracker?
Right.
You've answered your own fucking question.
Exactly.
Because you didn't even bother to print nigger.
Right.
Like, and I get it. It's a hurtful word. It's a word loaded in history. I hate it. But, well, no, I don't hate it when I use it. It's complicated. But the point is that I understand. Again, Nate, you said, but I understand that you're saying it in the context of the story. So
right.
I understand that you're not saying it as a slur. You're not saying it to hurt people.
Right.
And that's what I think is important for us to do, is to understand that, language has context. And once we peel back.
It's like the Patton Oswalt bit, like where you've got two guys and one of them saying all the politically correct stuff, but he's an evil shithole. And then you've got the other guy who's like saying like, yeah, but why can't the fags and dykes get married if they want? Like he's not saying the right colorful language, but his heart is in the right place.
Right.
And you've got to be able to navigate the difference. You can't just hear the words and react to them. That makes you, I think, fundamentally weak. That's something that George Carlin talks about, where if you recoil at a word, that if words can actually hurt you, then that whole bullshit that we've been talking about colloquially, sticks and stones, for the last 40 fucking years doesn't apply. So we've got to know how to use language to be able to navigate difficult situations and not shy away from it, and know that when people use correct terms that they're supposed to be using, they can still have negative intentions. You've got to be able to navigate all of that shit.
And it's all also, personal choice and personal virtue. Like you talked about faggot. That's something I don't say ever. That's probably the first time I've said it in years. But I have to, because if I say the F word, people have no fucking clue what I'm talking about.
Yes.
But the point is that it's something that I actively choose not to use because of experiences in my life and shit, and people that I'm close to. So it's a personal choice.
But you're also in our host chat where we throw stuff around. I use it every once in a while in the most inappropriate context that I can figure out how to use it. Because Chris will be like, yeah, I got to do something with my family and my baby, and I'll be like, faggot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so inappropriate.
Everyone laughs.
It's so inappropriate because A, it's unexpected. B, it's like, wow, that escalated.
It doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't even make sense. And that's what makes it funny.
But again, that's our private chat amongst people who all understand the context.
Right.
And again, that's the problem, is that stop putting private contextual things into your public space. That's the thing. Like, it's so dumb because I can't control what the fuck people say about each other in private. Nobody can. Whatever. I'm not trying to take that away from you.
Right.
However, when the very moment you go on Twitter and you make like public tweets about stuff,
right? That's different. It's a different
totally
thing.
Different. And you'll be held accountable. And
if not now, at some point,
you open yourself up to people getting at you.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand why people don't understand that concept. However, here's the thing that is important, is that the moment you become quote unquote powerful, when you're in a position that your words affect, Robbie, as you said, hundreds upon thousands of people, you got to be some new kind of fool to go out there and say this type of shit, at least not be conscious. Dude, some of my favorite people who have become recently like famous or popular or whatever, they'll be the first ones to be like, dude, the fucking 3 years ago, my chat is awful.
Yeah.
Like straight up and down and say, I've said some wild shit in the past I am not proud of.
Yeah.
If you can have that enough self-awareness like that, then I feel like, all right, cool, you're a human being, and if some shit comes out about your tweets 5 years down the line, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
That's
'Cause
hard.
we all
I
say.
like that's hard to hold somebody accountable for. If it was a tweet that you issued yesterday, that's a different thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to have to leave the discussion right there. Thanks, Norris, for joining us today. You going to stick around for Limit Break Radio?
Yeah, I'll be around.
All right, so make sure you stick around for Limit Break Radio. Coming up next here on twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio, we've got the Checkpoint Podcast.